Well, good morning and welcome, everyone. I, of course, am honored to be a part of today's event and to share the stage with such distinguished individuals, and I cannot thank you enough to be here and be a part of this event and all the support that you've given it all the way along. We're joined by so many, and so many have already been recognized, but I'd be remiss if I just don't make a few words in recognition to everything they've done, not only for this project, but in their support of the U.S. Marshals Service every single day. So first, let me recognize the congressional delegation, both Senator Pryor, Senator Boozman, and Congressman Womack, for everything that you do every day. We fight one battle out in the streets, you fight another battle up on the Hill. It is no easy job, and yet you decide to serve your country and stand tall up there at the Hill and instill the values that we appreciate very much in this country, so thank you for your service. I will be making a trip to Michigan, and I'm taking the gear in the back. And I was a proud member of Special Operations Group for 10 years, and I served with many of these men shoulder to shoulder and worked for many of them here in the crowd, so I know you'll join me. Hoorah. I do appreciate Arkansas's support for the Commemorative Coin. We also have with us the Commemorative Coin Committee. I will share with you that the idea was born, close to almost 8 years ago, by 2 Deputy U.S. Marshals. If you would join me in standing with the Commemorative Coin, I'm looking for both Oscar and Scott and the entire Coin Committee. Can you give us a show of your hands? There you go. I will say that both Scott and Oscar are coin collectors themselves, so they, knowing coins as well as they do, thought the Marshal Service would tell a great story on a coin, and that it did. And the gentlemen supported it and pushed it through. It took a very long time, and many of us are now coin collectors. We certainly have learned a lot, and if you think the wine business had a lot of intricacies, you should be a part of the U.S. Mint. I also would like to take a moment to recognize the federal judiciary that's here and have been at several events. Of course, the Chairman, Judge Spears, but also the other federal judicial members that are here. I want to thank you for your service, along with the U.S. Attorney that's here, and appreciate the work that you do every day for our country. Thank you very much. And finally, the state of Arkansas. Governor, I will tell you that I have traveled often down to Arkansas these last couple years, and I have been welcomed with such a warm welcome. I have seen the spirit of the people here and who love the Marshal Service and speak of it often, and I tell you it's felt by every single one of us. I'm often asked, what does the museum mean to the U.S. Marshal Service? And I will tell you, as I'm sure the retirees will and the present marshals that are here, that when you walked in this morning and this crowd stood to applaud you for your service, I was not alone, perhaps with a tear in my eye. So thank you, Arkansas, for everything you do. I don't think we could adequately express what the museum means to us. I don't know that it's the museum itself or it's just the spirit or the love of the Marshal Service that you show, and I hear you speak too often, so thank you for that. Having served in this department for 34 years, I've worked with some of the finest. I will tell you that I would like to introduce 2 gentlemen that are here. 2 young men, one serving with us today, that lost their father in the line of duty, Bill Deegan. Billy, Brian, would you stand? Bill Deegan was a hero. We lost him on Ruby Ridge. We've lost many in the line of duty, and their families have suffered the cost. But we're here committed. Just as Billy Jr. joins us every day, we are committed to serve and represent those families that have lost their loved ones. And we'll never, never waver in that quest to reduce violence in our streets. Your dad will always be remembered and loved by all of us. So as you can see, you're surrounded by past and presents. There's nowhere to go. I don't know, Jim, is now a good time to pass the donation bucket? Oh, sorry. But we proudly protect and serve the laws of this land. You have spoken to that fact, and we will remember the fact once this ground is broken and we move forward with the museum. I know I speak for thousands across this country to tell you how much that means to us. I couldn't help but reflect on that this morning. I will tell you that often as director, you get moved. I'm in a black vehicle, as you see the Suburbans roll through. And sometimes you land in town and you get to a hotel and you go to a courthouse and you go to a meeting and you never have a chance to see the town. And I thought, you know, as much as I've been down here, I want to take a moment to appreciate Fort Smith. So I took the scenic route on my Nikes this morning. I felt a little bit like Forrest Gump, I'll tell you that, I'll always share that. As I ran through town, he waved at me, I waved back. I found the courthouse, I didn't even know I was so close to it. The CSOs, our court security officers, were outside, and as the marshal told me, one of them ran in and said, "The director's in the street." The Marshal Oglesby and his chief who's here today. Marshal, I thank you for welcoming all of us into your district and everything your district does every single day. So like many of us in the Marshal Service, we're so proud of our history, so I couldn't help but reflect on that on my run this morning as I ran through the town. And I found a park, and I thought I would go into the park. And of course, it was the Fort Smith National Historic Park. And I ran through the path, and I ran down by the river, and I often thought, as I do when I run, I wonder what it was like in the old days. And when I spoke in November, I told you it was like sacred ground for all of us. And it's true. I felt that moment down the river, and as I came up the hill to exit the park, I saw these small wooden posts. And you know, I knew in my heart that Arkansas, that those posts were going to name Deputy U.S. Marshals. And it did. I knew before I got there because I know how much you admire and respect the work we do and how you honor that service to that country every single day. And I was proud to take a moment to reflect on all those names, so thank you for that remembrance. If I could bottle your love for us and carry it around the country, especially up to the hill, I would love that. Let me just tell you quickly, the U.S. Marshal Service has always had a role in responding to the nation's needs, ever since its inception. From settling the West to forming posses, as we work today in task forces across the country, to hunting and finding notorious criminals, during civil unrest, civil disturbances, and especially through the civil rights movements. We have protected the judicial system, and we have enforced the court orders. And that role has shifted throughout our history, and we've responded to those needs for 225 years, doing whatever we had to do to move this country forward. So yes, the museum tells the U.S. Marshal Service story, and in doing so, it tells the country's story. We both started together the same time, and we shifted, and we grew, and with many others, we formed this great nation. I share with folks back home that when you travel to Arkansas, you see and you feel true patriotism. It's a patriotism that most of the country still yearns for, and I hope you know how valuable that is. In fact, when you think of Fort Smith, when I always thought of Fort Smith, you think about American culture, you think about American history, you think about American folklore, and a cultural heritage that the United States has. It is the image that we have in our mind when we hear the term Americana. So while the museum brings to life the U.S. Marshal Service's story, it will in fact be telling the American story. It will educate, and it will share our country's history. It will bring to light the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, our civil liberties, and the freedoms that we enjoy in this country. And most important to all of us here, we want to thank you because it will show generations of U.S. Marshals that have protected and enforced and administered to those needs. So if I can, one more time, past and present, will the Marshals join me in standing and thanking the great state of Arkansas? I just want to make sure you guys are still fit, if that's okay. Next, we'll be running the 1.5 miles. So the congressman was good enough to speak about the commemorative coins and the work that was done. And I love the part, as always happens sometimes as your tail end of the speaker, was to acknowledge, as Judge Spear did and several, that the silver dollar depicts Fort Smith. And the commemorative coin committee and the artists worked diligently to make sure that you were represented in those commemorative coins. They are beautiful. I had the privilege to join the U.S. Mint at West Point about 2 weeks ago and was able to strike the first gold coin. They told me it was the first gold coin, but being the investigator that I am, I looked to my right, and there was about 20 of them already sitting there. So, but it's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I have the responsibility to display those coins, and some of which we displayed last night. I had the ability to share it with Congressman Womack last week, but they truly are beautiful. And I hope more than anything else that you'll have a chance to see them at some point over the next 3 months before the U.S. Mint makes them public for purchase. Feel free to purchase them also. But they are just stunning. But I think the thing that I really think through the most is when you look at them, and you look from the gold coin, which is our sacrifice coin, to remember those that were fallen, and you move to the silver coin, which is actually the Frontier Marshal, and Fort Smith represented so well. And then you go into the clad coin, and really it's the clad coin that we see it bridging from the old to the new. We see the Frontier Marshal, we see a new tactical deputy. We see on the reverse of the coin, the Lady of Justice, with her winds blowing in the with her hair blowing in the winds that actually represent the amount of time. And what you see is you see the Marshal Star pulling up the Constitution and all the different court orders that we executed over the years, whether it had to do with the Whiskey Rebellion or the Pullman Strike or the desegregation throughout our country. And so they're all across. When you look at the artwork, you see Americana, and we're very proud of that. I'll just take a moment to touch and recognize that the work we do today is not that much different than what we did in the past. We still apprehend notorious fugitives across this nation and even internationally with the work of our partners. I will, and I'm proud to say, that we apprehend over 110,000 dangerous and violent fugitives a year. I will also tell you that within 5 years, we have apprehended and picked up close to 60,000 non-compliant sex offenders and violent sex predators, and we're very proud of that fact. It is a new responsibility for us and the men and women across the Marshal Service as we've embraced everything that came our way. Respect what Congress gave to us in that, and we will protect our children, and we will ensure that they are protected throughout our country. And we're very proud, and I thank the men and women of the Marshal Service that work every day throughout the night to make sure that happens. I will tell you that the protection of the judiciary is more and more challenging. It was difficult in the old days, but as they face changing crime inside their courtrooms, as they face the difficulties of this country, that their protection becomes more intricate in social networking and the virtual world. But we stand steadfast in that mission, and it remains at the forefront of our focus and the intent to protect the judicial system. We are an organization of men and women who are proud to have played this intricate role throughout history. And Fort Smith has led the way to ensure that story is told, and that together we share that story. I almost wrote last night, "We have found our home in Arkansas with the museum coming." But then I thought, well, didn't we really find our home here hundreds of years ago when we were settling the West and our country was being formed? So Fort Smith is a part of our DNA. I hear Jim Dunn and I hear Fort Smith say the Marshal Service is a part of your DNA, so we share that together. I feel, in fact, the Marshal Service and Fort Smith are woven into the fabric of our country's history, and I'm very proud to share that with you. Thank you for your support. All of us are proud to serve you and this great nation. Thank you very much.